Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. Think about this statement from the book, No Bullies. Quote, many parents are numb to bullying because they experience it every day at work. The author goes on to say that the bullies in their neighborhood childhood have grown up and become their coworkers and supervisors. Up next on Another View on Health, we will talk about bullying and how children and adults alike may fall victim to the mean actions of others. We will define bullying, talk about how to recognize it, and most importantly, how to stop it. An impactful hour to help you stay safe. Stay tuned. Another View is next.
Discussing today's topics from an African-American perspective, this is Another View.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Another View. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. Before we get started on our discussion about bullying today, and we've got a great panel of folks to talk with us about it, just want to bring you up to speed on a couple of things. First and foremost, since this is the Another View on Health Day, Medicaid expansion, the rules have changed. It is time again for the Health Insurance Marketplace Enroll Fest. It is time to enroll for insurance from November 1st until December 15th. So it's only 6 weeks that you have in order to either sign up for the first time or renew your insurance if you are a part of the marketplace, Health Insurance Marketplace. So the enrollment period, November 1st through December 15th. There is a big event happening in Hampton on Saturday, November 3rd from 10 until 1 at the West Hampton Community Center. That's on Briarfield Road in Hampton, where you will learn about healthcare insurance marketplace. You'll learn about Medicaid expansion in Virginia. So there's a lot of people now who will have access to insurance. You'll learn how to receive help and learn and receive help in enrolling in the health insurance marketplace and so forth and so on. If you want to know more information, go to celebratehealthcare.net, celebratehealthcare.net. This is important for everyone who is in the marketplace for insurance. So don't forget that. And also don't forget, we're going to vote. It's coming up November the 6th. Don't forget, that is coming up soon, too. Also, I want to invite you to Virginia Wesleyan University tomorrow, Saturday, from 2:30 until 4. We're holding a Race Let's Talk About It discussion on immigration. The title is Our Immigration Policy Racist? And with everything happening in Mexico and the president last night sending more troops to the border to keep people from coming in and seeking asylum, it should be a very, very interesting discussion. It is free. It is open to everyone. It's at the Boyd Dining Center at Virginia Wesleyan University, and it's all a part of the One Love Festival. So come on out. The rain will be over, and come out and join us for this important discussion tomorrow. So the stats are alarming. According to StopBullying.gov, in a large study, 49% of children in grades 4 through 12 reported being bullied by other students at school at least once during the past month. And 30% reported being a bully, which I find just fascinating that they would even admit it. And it's not just happening to students. Adults experience bullying too. Adult bullies were either bullies as children or bullied as a child. But we can overcome bullying. And here to talk about it is Bobby Kipper, author of No Bullies, Solutions for Saving Our Children from Today's Bully, and founder and CEO of the National Center for the Prevention of Community Violence. And in full disclosure, I'm also a board member of NCPCV. Hey, Bobby, how you doing?
Good to see you, Barbara.
It's good to have you back with us. We appreciate you being here. Also joining us via phone is Patricia McKenzie. She's the lead actress and producer of the movie Bully Fighters. Hi, Patricia. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me on the show. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for joining us. And we also have Lindsay Cacavelli, I hope I said that right, principal of Dare Elementary School in York County, along with Latrice Martin, who is a counselor also at Dare Elementary. Ladies, how are you?
Hi, we're great. Thanks for letting us join the conversation.
Oh, we're really happy to have you with us. And normally today, our co-host, Dr. Cardiologist, Dr. Keith Newby, would be with us, but he had a medical emergency. We want him to help his patients. So, Keith, we miss you, and we'll see you next time when we all get together. So, Bobby, I want to start with you. What is bullying?
Well, bullying is a repeated harassment or misbehavior against a victim. Sometimes the victims are targeted. Sometimes it's just happenstance. But we need to understand that it has to be something that's repeated. A lot of times when one thing happens and somebody's called a name or a put down, we want to classify that as bullying. But bullying is something that's repeated against an individual in a negative perspective, such as name calling, harassment.
And is it always one person to one person, or is it more of like a group that would pick on one person?
Well, it's both, but more of a group today than used to be. It used to be that it was isolated between individuals, and that was easier to deal with. But today, victims find themselves up against groups of people who are either ignoring them, making fun of them, and we see this both in social networking and obviously in neighborhoods and schools as well.
And the internet has not helped.
It is not at all. It's actually, I call it faceless violence.
Yeah.
You can do anything if you can type on a keyboard, and that's exactly what a lot of young people do, and a lot of adults do that as adult bullies.
So, Patricia, you did an entire film on this, but what was your interest? What got you in the bullying space to begin with?
Well, I received a phone call from a friend of mine who I also produce with. Her name is Jupiter J. Makins. She actually wrote the film and directed it.
Yes, I was going to bring her up when we talk about the clips. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. As soon as she told me, I receive a lot of scripts, and not a lot of them really ignite me. But as soon as she told me about it, I said, yes, I'm going to make time for this, and we're going to do it. And I think it's just having grown. I grew up white. Black in a white community, and feeling like just trying to fit in and being a bit of an outsider, trying to make my way. I didn't experience the intense cyberbullying because I'm too old for that. We didn't have that at the time. But it did sensitize me that whenever I would hear stories about bullying, I just felt like I have to do something. There were horrible stories. The story of Karen Klein in New York, who was a 68-year-old woman on a bus, being harassed by middle schoolers. There was Amanda Todd. This was all kind of in 2012. There was just story after story that was breaking my heart. And I'm not the kind of person who can just sit back and talk about it. I'm like, I have to do something. When this opportunity came up to do the film, I jumped on it.
And you actually won an award. This was selected the People's Choice, I believe, or wasn't there?
That's correct.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So we wanted to we had a 3-week window to do this film because we wanted to submit it to the folks Forum on Law and Culture in New York City. And so we said, well, we're the kind of people who say we don't care what the limitations are. We had no money, we had no crew, we had no actors, we had nothing. And we said, we're going to do it. So we did it. We got it in on time, which is a miracle. It's a 30-cast film, and there's about 75 crew. It's crazy numbers. But we got it in on time, and we actually won. We won an Audience Choice Award.
That's
so
fantastic.
That just propelled us from there, and just great things have been happening with the film ever since.
Now, in the film, you bring up some really good points and things that people need to think about in terms of bullying, because the film is about a young lady and a young man who almost commits suicide and a young woman who actually does, based on being bullied. And your position or your role as the attorney, Regina Shore, decides that you want to take the bullies to court, because right now there's no federal law that deals with bullies. Isn't that correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
That is correct. When it goes into harassment, whatever the distinction is, for example, in the workplace, you're not allowed to do that. But somehow when it's related to kids, we think, oh, that's just child's play, and that makes it okay. It's not okay.
Absolutely.
But you're correct. There's no federal anti-bullying law.
So I want to play a clip from the movie because, and in this clip, Regina Shore is describing why it's critical to prosecute bullies. And this gives you a sense of some of the things that she was thinking about.
What happens to the abused and battered child at school? We label it bullying, we soften it with misconduct, and nothing is done to protect him. No real laws, no consequences for teachers or principals or schools for not having measures in place to stop bullying before a daughter takes her life or a son goes to jail. Why? Because the bully's also a child, and we're too afraid to ruin his life by placing him behind bars? What does it say? It says that it's okay to prey on the weak. It's okay for a child to ruin another child's life, but God forbid the law steps in to do what the law is supposed to do, govern behavior.
That was from Bully Fighters with lead actress Patricia McKenzie, and Jupiter Makins is the writer, director, and producer of that movie, Bully Fighters. Pretty passionate there.
You know, it still gets me. It still kind of wrenches my heart out. Yeah, the topics, the things that Jupiter managed to bring up in the writing of that film, I think it touches on everything: the bystanders, the parents, the teachers, the law. Everyone has to step in and take some responsibility. It can't be all put on the person who's bullied or the other students or the parent. You know, it has to be a community effort.
Absolutely.
Which is what Bobby is so great at doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll get back to him in just a second. But Lindsay, let me bring you into the conversation because as principal of Dare Elementary, first of all, you are a green zone school, and you won an award for that. What exactly, explain to my audience what that means, and especially in terms of bullying.
Sure. So we adopted the Green Zone program almost 3.5 years ago. And what it has really become at DARE is a culture of where the adults in the building, teachers, administrators, school counselor, have really taken on the role of a coach to help students with their behavior, with their tolerance, with their words, with their actions, knowing that students need help when they are in the yellow zone or the red zone, getting back to the green zone, what we refer to as appropriate behaviors and a way of being with one another.
Mm-hmm. So did you find in the beginning that maybe teachers and other personnel in the school weren't quite sure how to deal with children when they were being bullied?
Well, I don't know if they're missing the skill set, but the focus was really on academics. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things we did here at our school was we had the teachers draw a picture and label the child that we want to graduate to middle school. And so many of the things that teachers wrote down were actually character traits. That we share that compassion for kids and creating those types of children. So we had to make time in our own curriculum and in the way we interact with children to make sure we were really dedicating enough time to that.
Mm-hmm. So, Latrice, you're a counselor at the school. Would kids come to you if they were being bullied? Would they tell you?
When they were being mistreated,
yes.
Yeah. And we would talk through what occurred. And I feel as my role as a school counselor, a big part of it is helping the children to understand the difference between an individual being rude or mean or what's considered a conflict, and then, of course, what constitutes bullying. Mm-hmm. And in often cases, there are conflicts, and then there are skills that the students are lacking. And so it's more of an empowering opportunity for me as well to educate the students and as well as give them the skills.
So can you give me a specific example, not using names, obviously, but I'm really trying to help the audience to understand what is that difference between one child just kind of being mean as opposed to being bullied?
Right. Well, the students, we teach it in several ways, but one of the ways that we have the students to identify the 3 factors that we look for when it comes to bullying. One way is the 3 Ps. We look for a pattern, purpose, and then power. And oftentimes that power element is the piece where we are able to help the students by empowering them with the skills to be able to stand up for themselves or to not be a bystander.
Mm-hmm. And so what do you teach them? How do you teach them then to empower, that allows them to feel empowered? What do you say to them?
Well, because we are a green zone school, for starters, students know that one person can make a difference in anything. One person can make a difference. And so students are able to share with others hey, that's not in the green zone. Students are able to kindly coach one another back through the steps. Students are also taught skills as to how to help students who are being mistreated or when they encounter a student who's being unkind by having that student to join in with them. We also have something here at our school called a buddy bench. And so if a student is having a bad day, our students all are aware that it's everyone's job to look out for one another. And if you recognize or see a student who is having a bad day, perhaps doesn't have anyone to play with, who's sitting on the buddy bench, they know to go over to that person and invite that person. So we have many different things such as that. We also have things the students are taught I statements, where they are taught how to share with another person how they are made to feel by another person's actions. And it's a statement simply as, I don't like it when, and the students state what that is, and they ask them to please stop.
So I can hear somebody out there in radio land going, okay, that's all well and good. That's nice and touchy-feely, but that's not going to work in the real world. What do you say to them, to someone who might have that thought? Latrice, I can go to you first, and then Lindsay.
Well, I get it. As a school counselor, I do hear that, the touchy-feely part. But it really does truly start with empowering the kids and building that confidence in them to be an advocate for themselves and standing up for themselves, to say what is acceptable, what's appropriate, what's inappropriate. I feel it truly starts there. And from there, the next steps take place. We tell students, if they've asked a student to stop, perhaps, they also are taught how to seek help and who to go to and ask for help with the situation. And sometimes you may have students who choose not to do that. Some students may share they did not know who to go to, which is the other neat part about how we are here at our school. The students are able to identify adults in the building, knowing that they have that support here to go to. So I think it is touchy-feely in some ways, but it really does start with empowering the individual, helping them to identify that skill set, and then utilizing their resources.
Okay. So, Bobby, a lot of talk about the student who is bullied, but I'm really curious about the mentality of the bullier, the one that's doing the bullying.
Right.
Where is there as much focus on trying to change their behavior as there is on trying to help those who are the victims of?
There is, but there's a trend change now. We used to try to change behavior simply with discipline. But now we're trying to change behavior with supportive services. Exactly what are the needs of that individual child or that student? What is there some issue that's creating the anger and the hostility in that particular person? Because whether you punish someone or not, that's only a symptom. Is there something else going on? And schools have had to deal with this for years and years. And now we're looking at how to provide more supports. And, of course, Green Zone, something that they do. Those type of efforts where students are supported more, they start to get a general feeling of the climate of the school. And it becomes more of a support, a wraparound of services, as Latrice does at Dare Elementary as a counselor. And regardless of whether the person is a victim or whether they are the bullier themselves, all of them need some special care and treatment. And we used to discard the bully and think, well, that person just needs to be, again, it needs to be a punitive mark against them. But they also a lot of these kids are stressed and angered, and we need to figure out why.
So we need to ask them the question, what is going on in their lives?
Exactly, absolutely.
Their lives also. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240 are the phone numbers to call to join our conversation. We're talking about bullying. Have you experienced that with your child, or were you bullied as a child? Give us a call and let's talk about it. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. So explain the Green Zone.
The Green Zone is it's basically a multi-tiered approach to civility. And it's really interesting because we look at there are two ways that people act out. When you think about acting out behavior in people, they either act out verbally or they act out physically. Well, if you look at the behavioral science behind that, the acting out verbally always normally occurs first. So if you want to do prevention and intervention on stopping that, then you have to start with verbal behavior. And so what we do is we classify verbal behavior and the approach of it in 3 categories. The first, obviously, being the green zone, which is the target, which is a normal rate and tone of volume of speech, asking informational questions, effective listening, the things that you would do by being a civil person.
Exactly. Having a good, normal, civil conversation.
That's right. And that does happen still today, believe it. And then the yellow zone is when you get to the point where you're getting into put downs, name callings, ignoring people, isolating people, just it's a road of mistreatment. Mm-hmm. And of course, the red zone is profanity, which a lot of people don't want to talk about profanity, but swearing and threats and profanity leads into the actual cause of violence. So what we try to do is we give schools the opportunity. Every classroom has a poster. Every child gets a bookmark, and it reminds them civility is the rule of the day. And again, I can't say enough for Darrell Elementary, because they completely have used that as their climate and culture of their school, which has been very effective, and the research is showing how well it's working.
Lindsay, did you get pushback when you first tried to implement the green zone?
We didn't get pushback, but I wouldn't say we also had, buy-in immediately. It really was a process, and we've worked each year we add a new component to really build it more into our student culture and teacher culture. So that's been really a strategic and important.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen the movie Bully Fighters?
I have not seen the movie.
You have not seen it yet. Well, Patricia, I want to come back to you, because in the movie, and again, this movie is about, 25 minutes long?
25 minutes, I think.
Or so. But in the movie, at the very end, without spoiler alert, but you really allow the audience to make a decision, as opposed to the movie telling them what the decision is.
That's correct, and that's a very important point you bring up. I think one of the big strengths of this movie is that we show all sides of the spectrum in this, and at the end of it, the audiences start debating what side they fall on. And we found it really, really powerful, even in juvenile detention centers. We brought it to a juvenile detention center, and at the beginning of the movie, the kids were a little bit, reticent. They didn't really want to talk. They were sitting back, arms folded, while they were watching the movie, because I really believe in the power of film to bring out emotions and story and open people up. Mm-hmm. They started sitting up forward, paying rapt attention, and by the end of it, they wanted the bullies to have some consequences. They decried bullies in general. And these are all kids that probably bullied.
Wow.
And then they were telling their dreams and what they wanted out of life, and that it was wrong, and that we should show this to other detention centers. They really became sensitive to what was happening to the kids that were being bullied.
I find it, and I want to play another clip from the movie, because in the movie itself, you do get a chance to go in, present your case against the bullies. And there's a scene where the jury comes together to try to make a decision. And I want to play that clip because the jury has a really hard time. Let's take a listen.
Those parents are right. It's these mean kids. They do it for sport. School's like a gladiator ring to some of these kids. And there needs to be harsher consequences for bullies.
I don't think we're going to stop bullying in schools without decision. It's normal.
Little kids, they tease each other every now and then. That's normal. But these teens selected 2 kids to bully relentlessly.
I don't think it's fair. So we're going to send 3 14-year-olds to jail to set a precedence with their lives?
So you can hear that they really had to go back and forth, and the judge finds out what the decision is, but the audience does not. So when you showed this film around the country, was that pretty much the reaction? I mean, people were on all different sides of the issue?
People were divided, and even divided within themselves. I think that's where we are. Nobody wants to see little kids going to jail or having their lives ruined, but for bullying. At the same time, if we don't have consequences and don't show kids that this is wrong and shameful as a society to do that, instead of being proud of being the bully, then we ruin another kid's life. And we interviewed a lot of people for this, including kids that bullied. And very often it came down to the reasons why they were bullying was because they felt that they had been bullied. They had to lash out so they wouldn't be the target. And sometimes it's just because they didn't have any friends. So that was the way to I have a lot of friends whose kids are very successful in the arts, and they become big targets of bullies because people are jealous of them. There's so many reasons why.
Why they become, There are, our phones are lit up, and so I want to go there in just a moment. But if you're just joining us, we're talking about the social and psychological effects of bullying with Bobby Kipper, author of No Bullies, Solutions for Saving Our Children from Today's Bully, actress and film producer Patricia McKenzie with the film Bully Fighters, Linda Cacavelli, principal of Dare Elementary School in York County, and Latrice Martin, a counselor at Dare Elementary School. Also, 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Patrick joins us from Williamsburg. Hi, Patrick. You're on the air. Hello, Patrick? Are you there?
Sorry about it. Sorry, I had it on mute.
Oh, okay. You're on the air.
Hi.
Hi.
So basically, I just wanted to add my comments and my point of view. I actually came up through York County schools. I've been living in York County since 2002. My family got stationed at Langley Air Force Base. Came up through Grafton, Bethel, middle and high school. And yeah, I'm not going to lie about it. I was a bit of a weird kid, kind of a easy target, I guess you could say. But over the course of my education through Grafton, the Grafton schooling, I had been bullied quite a fair bit, I would say. And in my personal experience, it was always people that pretty much had it set, so to speak. They were, sports people. They were the, the shining stars, the prodigy students, whatever.
Who did the bullying, you're saying?
Yes.
Ah, okay. Okay.
All right. It was usually the people that, had it better, and they just, they did it for, I guess, their own amusement.
So how did you deal with it, Patrick?
Well, I tried to seek help, but most of the time whenever I would go to administration, it would just kind of get brushed under the carpet.
Okay. Let me get Bobby Kipper to respond. Bobby, again, this whole idea of, kids will be kids. You're making a big deal out of this. Why are you making such a big deal out of this?
Well, we should make big deals out of it because people are actually, I know people today that have been emotionally distraught for years over the way, like similar what Patrick is. He recalls this experience even now and probably will for the rest of his life. So it does make an indent into people's lives. So we have to take it seriously. Mm-hmm. And one of the things he said was when he reached out to school officials that nothing seemed to be done. And part of that is really bringing apart, an operation on what to do when these complaints come in. And every school should have a policy to take it serious, but also to make sure that they go back to the person who's reported that they've been bullied and talk to them about what they're going to do to make a change to help them be involved in that school and involved in that climate.
So if you go home and your child comes home and says, I've been bullied, as a parent, what should you do?
Well, the first thing you should do is really make sure you have all the information. Remember, a lot of times when students come, it's maybe their perception of the issue right then, but to really clarify exactly what occurred, where did it occur, how often has it occurred? I mean, is this something repeated or just happened one time? And then make the school know about that. Go actually contact the principal or either a counselor or someone that's empowered at the school to let them know what's going on. A lot of times we try to handle this stuff in the community or in our homes, and school officials have not been bought into it, but they should. And it really doesn't matter whether it's at home or at school, even if it's online at home. If it's involving students from the school, school officials need to know so they can take action.
I can see on the elementary school level,
right?
With the green zone and the bench that Latrice was talking about and so forth. But middle and high school,
Right. Well, you would actually be surprised. I mean, we have I went out to Oakland High School in Oakland, California, and they put in the green zone. And we have a different, of course, poster and different graphics for secondary education, middle and high school compared to elementary school. Mm-hmm. And what we really feel like is that a school district probably should do it from K through 12, because then it becomes common language across the district. Right. And we're looking to experience that now. We're hoping that we can do that. But what happens is that you would think that even the older ages, they don't reject it. They embrace it. As a matter of fact, I have a quick story. We have college interns that work with our organization, as you know, and one was at the Yorktown Beach a couple summers ago, and there started to be an argument between two teenagers, and one started using some profanity, and the other chimed in and said, "Man, you are so red zone." And so our intern in the community reached out to him and said, "Do you have the green zone at your school?" And they said, "Absolutely." And it was a high school. So they receive it, and it becomes common language even for teenagers.
Okay. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Our phones are lit up, so let's go. Larry joins us from North Carolina. I hope I pronounced your name correctly.
Yes, Larry.
Oh, Larry.
Yes.
Hi, Larry.
Hi. Thank you, Barbara, for taking my call.
Sure.
My grandson goes to a school here in North Carolina, and he came home one day and he told me that some kid spit on him. And I asked him, why did the kid spit on him? What was he doing? And he said the kid wanted him to move from where he was, and he told the kid he wasn't going to move, so the kid spit on him. So I went to school. And once I got to school, I talked to the secretary. She wanted to know why I was there. I told her why I was there. And she acted like she got upset with me because I came there to talk to the principal about this kid spitting on my grandson. And she told me, she said, she knew the little boy that I was talking about. And she said, he wouldn't do that, in a old real snobby voice. So, I waited for the principal. I talked to the principal. And I don't know what they did about it because my grandson didn't tell me if they talked to him or talked to the little boy. So I told my grandson to never let anyone spit on him. If anyone spit on him again, that little boy spit on him again, pick something up and try to bash him down. Because if he's got the nerves to spit on him, you should have the nerve to hit him back with something.
Oh, my. Well, let me see, Larry, if that would be the advice that we would give you from the National Center for the Prevention of Community Violence. But I hear what you're saying, and I understand that. But here's a question for you. Was that the only time that kid had spit on your grandson, or were there other instances?
There was another time.
There were other instances?
My grandson, he took gum, the little bubble gum ball to school. He said the teacher said they could bring, little pieces of candy. So he asked me to buy him bubble gum, and I brought him some bubble gum and put it in a little plastic bag. And he said the little boy tried to take his bubble gum.
Okay, I got you. Let me let our panel respond to you. Thanks so much for the call, Larry. We appreciate it. So he did the right thing. He went to the school.
he did. And we hear a lot of reports of that. Jumping right in about advocating how to one-on-one handle it. I never encourage, folks to obviously fight or to, I think that there are authorities and there are things in place that should be standing in the gap for our victims. And when that's not done, we need to be more demanding that it be done. Whether it's at the school level, if you're not happy with what the school is doing at that level, then you've got superintendents, you got school board members, you got people you can contact if that's not working. But these are not your bullies. That's what I tell adults. You're sending kids in to fight a wave at times. We think it's one person. It might be one person doing the spitting, but they probably have a lot of friends that when you start an altercation that are probably going to join in, and it becomes more of even a mass violence situation very quickly. So I never encourage that. I try to do everything on the front end first. If that doesn't work, there are all kinds of, there are all kinds of outcomes you can go to.
Lindsay, what would you tell Larry also, just out of curiosity?
Well, I would apologize to Larry first off, because whenever a parent comes in and has a concern that their child's being bullied, it needs to be validated. Whether it's not a bullying situation and it's just a conflict, or it's a child being mean or a child being rude, it really doesn't matter. They need to be heard out and validated. The other thing is, everything is worth investigation. Speaking to both children that were involved, the victim and the one that's accused. And then he didn't get a call back of what happened. And so I think that that's unfortunate because it leaves the school vulnerable to the appearance that nothing was done. And the misbehavior, whether bullying, whether or not bullying, was tolerated. And that's not the way it's supposed to go. We are here to mediate the situation and assign consequences where consequences are due. These sound like young students, so I hope the opportunity was taken to pull them both in, and for the child who was spit on to use you made me feel, when you did this, it made me feel. Because again, children sometimes do things without really thinking about the other one's feelings. And so Latrice and I are in the role where we get to really help mediate and help children who might mistreat others understand how that person's feeling.
Gotcha.
But I would not advise to hit back. One, because that would get that child in trouble as well. And two, because we really want to empower kids with tools that are going to work in the world. And engaging in violence like that isn't a tool we want them to build.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Kind of old school there. Absolutely. Mark joins us from Norfolk. Hi, Mark. You're on the air.
Hello to you and your panel. I don't know if I'm going to be a breath of fresh air because Mr. Larry, he's not too far from it. I'm just coming off from my son being suspended yesterday for the first time, and he got, assaulted in the bathroom. And so where I come from is, what happened? Are we missing something here that might be hard to discuss? Is the generation, as the Bible says, are we becoming weaker but wiser? Meaning that are we becoming, quote unquote, smarter but becoming more mentally weak? I just can't help but to dig into what Larry is saying is, coming up right here in Norfolk from elementary up, we fought. We joked each other's mama. We joked each other's daddy. And at the end of the day, we were mentally strong enough to, still be able to maintain healthy relationships.
I see what you're saying.
And then lastly is what we really need, the 800-pound gorilla is that our family structures are just disintegrating. So when that child has that episode or whatever, they don't have that parent or parents at home that's basically able to gin them back up or give them real good sound advice, coping advice. So now we're just kind of just leaving it to society to say, bully, 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 bully. But we have a domestic issue of not having support for our children at the place called home, where they spend 80% of their time.
Okay.
And that's really something that needs to be talked about.
All right, Mark, let's let the panel talk about it. Thanks so much for the call. We appreciate it. Bobby, I saw you shaking your head as you were listening to him.
Well, it has been a culture change. We have to admit it. We are living in a world where people seem to associate kindness with weakness. And that's one of our biggest problems. We have to start putting the kindness foot forward. And that's really what schools are trying to do. That's, as you hear Lindsay and Latrice talk about it, there's no way that you're going to, battle your way out of a culture that wants to fight. And yes, your guest said we used to fight and throw a few fists and everything was over with. We're not living in a day and age where people can deal with that emotionally. It's always conquer. It's always go to the end. And so our society is different today, and so are our bullies. And that's what I try to explain to people. And even in the book, we talked about that. It is not the same elementary hallway that we went to. And it's not the same civil community where neighbors looked after the children in the neighborhood anymore. We've all become sort of recluse to civility, and we've got to get back. We do have a problem, and a cultural problem here.
Patricia, I want to get you to weigh in on that also. Do you think that it culturally that we're missing something here?
I'm really glad you brought that up, and I just still have on my mind when just some things that Bobby was saying, and it made me think that when kids are in a fight or flight mode in school, they can't learn. Literally, your brain, when you're in a fight or flight mode, the oxygen goes from your brain to your body. So expecting kids to just duke it out every day and put them in that situation where they're stressed, we're not giving them what they came to school for.
Good point. Let's go to Melissa in Newport News. Hi, Melissa. You're on the air.
Hello.
Hi.
I have a question actually that picks up on something that Mark said. So Mark said that his child was bullied in a bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
And as we talk about long-term effects of bullying or hidden effects of bullying, I wanted to speak about something that's come sort of, I guess, across my radar more recently, but that, girls' bathrooms and boys' bathrooms are very different. Boys have a much more, because of urinals, they have a much more exposed experience in a bathroom, a more vulnerable one. And for young boys and middle school boys that have experienced or are afraid of bullying in the bathroom, they tend to avoid altogether going. And it develops in adulthood into a not uncommon syndrome called pee shyness, where because public bathrooms continue, to be what men have.
Wow.
It's something where, and it's something that they don't want to talk about because they're very ashamed, because that avoidant behavior, which avoided bullies, turns into something that becomes persistent through adulthood.
I hadn't thought about that, Bobby. Since you're the only man on the panel, we're gonna let you handle that one.
Wow, loaded on a Friday, right?
Yes.
Well, it's true, and not only that, but we know pediatricians see urinary tract type infections and things that they have to deal with because kids are afraid to go to the school bathroom, and that's something that parents have got to talk to their child about and bring it, right to the principal's attention. And if there are medical conditions that are coming out of this, I mean, the main thing is she made a great point about later in life. And I think that's important to know about the impact of bullying long term. But it does create some even medical problems, even in teens and even in young people in schools. And so the bathrooms need to be regularly patrolled and controlled by caring adults who basically make sure that these things are not occurring. If that's not occurring, then it needs to happen. There needs to be some demands.
Wow. How do parents recognize if their kid is being bullied if they don't say anything?
Well, there are a number of ways. I mean, personality. First of all, you need to know your child's personality. And second of all, when they become a little bit more recluse and not wanting to communicate, they go into themselves. It's almost like a sense of automatic depressed feelings because they feel like no one cares because, they may have made an outcry to someone. Maybe the parents don't even know that, and it may not be dealt with. Of course, obviously, any type of bruising or anything that's not common on the child's body that you notice, that you need to be reporting that right away. Which brings me to another point. I think we need to better define what bullying is not. Okay. And assault and battery is not bullying. Assault and battery is a criminal offense.
And so there are laws that deal with that.
There are laws. And so at some point we have to learn, and I've done presentations on this over the line, when does bullying actually become a criminal offense and even a civil rights violation above everything else? So I think parents, once they know their child, they know when they're basically not wanting to talk, they're not outgoing, they're just, you can tell they're hidden, they're frightened, they don't want to be part of a socialization at all. They're afraid.
We know that's coming. Sherry joins us from Norfolk. Hi, Sherry. You're on the air.
Hey, yeah. Listen, I wanted to share something that years ago I was looking for alternative methods of educating and schooling, and I ran across a school. I don't remember the name of it or anything now, but they had eliminated bullying inadvertently, and this is how they did it. They had learning centers, like they had a math center. They had an English center, and there was no age delineation. There would be high school age kids and, elementary age school kids all in the same center. And what happened was that older kids were held helping younger kids occasionally here and there. And the younger kids loved hearing something from another kid rather than a teacher. So they were actually learning better. And because of kind of this, when we divide kids age year by year, age by age, grade by grade, there's something about that eliminated the bullying.
Wow. Okay. Thanks so much for that call, Sherry. We appreciate that. Lindsay, you want to respond?
Well, sure. I mean, I could see how that would be positive. Older students like to work with younger students, and we've tried to find ways when we have kids who experience a lot of conflict, maybe not with the same person, but we had a student who was struggling academically, had checked out, goofing off, doing things like that. And so we actually found a place for him to be a leader in one of our classrooms with students with multiple disabilities, and found out he had a lot of compassion. And I think that gave him an area of pride. So I do think when we group kids across a grade level, especially the older children, they take a lot of pride in being a role model and someone looking up to them, and that sort of thing.
Absolutely. Let's take Bridget from Newport News. Hi, Bridget. You're in the air.
Hi. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes. Go right ahead.
Okay. We had an incident where my daughter is in Newport News and she's in high school. And she would come home all the time because there was a bullying issue. I would be up at the school all the time. And I ended up writing the school board. A week after I wrote the school board, the ultimate incident happened where a young lady took a Snapchat video of my child in the gym locker room getting dressed. So this video was circling around the school and everybody saw it. And I felt like the school system didn't take it seriously because they did investigate. They did hear that the students knew of the video and saw the video, but because it was Snapchat, we couldn't prove anything.
Because it was gone, because it disappeared. Yeah.
Right. And my child suffered some depression. That day she wanted to commit suicide. And I got her the help she needed.
Good.
But right now she's doing like a homebound type of situation because she does not want to go back to that school.
I'm so sorry, Bridget. I am really so sorry. I'm going to let Bobby and the other guests respond to that. Go ahead, Bobby.
Extremely sad. I mean, it's extremely sad. And the fact that, kids today have so many social network weapons, and that's what I call them, the faceless violence, the weapons that they use online to really embarrass and call out and hang out other people. The problem is that some of that, when it occurs outside of the school, this one occurred in the school, which I find it very, very difficult to try to swallow. My advice to parents and adults, when you're dealing with the school level, make sure you're getting the name and individual and their position on if it falls on deaf ears. And, if you're writing school board members, I mean, these people are elected. Let's face it. I mean, people, and we hear a lot that maybe schools are not doing anything, but we always believe that they're trying to do something. But in a case where it's just so severe, I mean, they work for the government. They're government workers. They're service workers.
Patricia, would you respond? What you just heard Bridget say?
That's heartbreaking, and I agree with Bobby. And when you asked me earlier about the cultural shift, I think that is the big shift that we did not experience as kids, that social media follows the kids outside of school, and I've interviewed a lot of kids on that too, and that's what destroys them, that there's no escape from it. People like Bobby are doing programs to help, and so I think we just need to educate as much as possible and give as many resources as possible so when people come across a closed door or a brick wall, they can find other places to reach out to, because we can't let these things keep happening.
So while I still have you, Patricia, because we are almost out of time, I mean, this hour has flown by, how do people find Bully Fighters if they would like to show it, or what do they need to do?
There are several avenues. They can contact the National Center for the Prevention of Community Violence. Bully Fighters also comes with a workbook for the kids, and the Green Zone program can be implemented in their school as well. So we've been working together very successfully on that. They can go to our website, thebullyfighters.com. And we have educational distributors as well, and all the information can be found on our website.
Fantastic. That's Patricia McKenzie, the lead actress and producer of The Bully Fighters. Thank you so much for joining us on today's show. We really appreciate it. And Lindsay and Latrice, I'm so sorry. Let me give you 2 minutes to just take the last, to give a word of advice or a word of encouragement.
Well, one of the things that resonated with me from one of our earlier callers is, parents do play a big role. And I think our lives today are very busy. And with the way our kids are exposed to technology through iPads, they have their own iPhones, some of them. It really is important that as parents, we're involved and we know our kids and we're talking to them and we're monitoring their social media, because that is one of the biggest, tier one things we can do as a society to help curb some of this bullying and mistreatment of others.
Fantastic. Lindsay Cacavelli, she's principal of Dare Elementary School in York County, who won the Green Zone School of the Year. Yay. Thank you so much for joining us. And Latrice, you got 30 seconds.
Yes, and I would just like to encourage parents to work and partner with schools, because being proactive, as the Green Zone program is what it's all about. It lessens the reactive piece to bullying. And so working with the schools and partnering with the schools to build those cultures of kindness, creating a culture that the behaviors are not tolerated, and equipping students with the skills as to how and what to do about it.
Fantastic. That's Latrice Martin, who is also a counselor at Dare Elementary. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining us. Bobby, you got 30 seconds. How do people find out about the center and what do they need to do?
They can contact me directly. They can contact Bobby Kipper at solveviolence.com. And we will, we're always looking to expand Green Zone to other schools and give other schools an opportunity to build zones of civility. So we appreciate you being with us and as a team member, and thank you for having us.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. And I hope that people will take this to heart, because our children are struggling.
Absolutely.
And we need, as adults, to make sure that we do all that we can within the school. So if your school is not a Green Zone school, then give Bobby an email at Bobby Kipper at solve, S-O-L-V-E, violence.com. Bobby Kipper at solveviolence.com. Thank you so very much. So there's so much to think about from our guests today. And if you'd like to hear this show again or share it with a friend, please visit our website, anotherviewradio.org, and you can download the podcast. And while you're there, please sign up for our eView newsletter. It's a once-a-week reminder of upcoming programs. And we're on Facebook, so like us. And I'm on Twitter at Barbara Ham Lee. So next week on Another View, we're going to talk about African Americans and marijuana reform and what role does race play in legalizing pot. That should be a very, very interesting discussion. We've got a very full panel here to talk about the decriminalization, if I can learn how to say that word, of the laws that affect so many people and have so many, particularly young African American males, locked up at this point. So we're going to talk about that with some very prominent folks. So please feel free and join us next Friday. Our theme music was composed and performed by Jay Sennett. Lisa Godley is our show producer. Todd Washburn is our audio engineer, and Janae Jackson answered our phones. I'm Barbara Ham Lee. Come out, join me tomorrow, Virginia Wesleyan University, 2:30, for the discussion on immigrants and racism. So please come out and say hello. And have a fantastic weekend, everybody. And thank you for listening to Another View.